everything gets stored, and then when NSA wants to analyze things from their headquarters, there's a secure fiber optic cable that goes from NSA headquarters in Maryland to Bluffdale to the data center, and so they just analyze everything that's in there. It's, the way to think of it is the data center in Bluffdale, Utah, is NSA's external hard drive.
Let's go to Florida, Pompano Beach. Robin is a Democrat. Hi, Robin. You're on with James Bamford.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to make a point. Obama did not initially implement the Patriot Act. That was Bush in 2001. I'm not certain all the callers know that.
And Robin, why is that an important point for you?
Yes, it is.
And why? Why? Tell us more about that.
Well, because I just feel like that a lot of people are attacking Obama for this. And granted, yes, he is carrying forward with this. And I do think that it's wrong. And I do think it's definitely an invasion of our privacy. But I do want to make the point that this is something that started in 2001 and that it should have been repealed long ago. And but that people need to stop laying this at Obama's feet. There are provisions in the Patriot Act that allow for the government to come in and take tangible property from Americans, even if they're researching terrorist activities, whether the American is suspected of terrorism or not. With that in mind, the government can use metadata like Google does to determine what people are looking at, and based on that, they decide whether you are engaged in unsavory activities. They have a lot of specific keywords, and some are totally innocuous, such as exercise.
So, Robin, it sounds like you are still concerned, even though you point out that this wasn't something that President Obama initiated. It still bothers you.
Yes, I am concerned about it.
Here's a tweet that Oscar wrote in, Robin. Oscar says, okay, can Republicans and Democrats stop fighting now? Clearly, we're all in the same ship, and if we divide it, both sides will sink. So, Robin, where do you go from here?
Well, I think that we need to, first of all, we need to make provisions in this Patriot Act. We need to do something about the Patriot Act. We need to either repeal it or we need to do a complete overhaul on this Patriot Act because the government really has too much power in this area at this point. I don't think they need to be involved in our personal data. We have Google, we have companies like this are involved. They do use our metadata. Right now you can go online and you can do a search and you will immediately get a pop-up.
Okay, so Robin, let's stick with the first point that you made there about what you think should happen next, and we'll get a response from James Bamford so we can focus on the Patriot Act. What would change in the Patriot Act actually do? What kind of teeth would that have?
Well, getting back to the caller's original comment, which was that this was a Bush decision in the first place, the whole idea, I've always thought that the Trade Commission, the U.S. Trade Commission, should look into the whole idea of bait and switch, because that was what happened here. Obama came in campaigning that he was not going to expand the NSA with the Patriot Act and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and all that. He was not going to grant immunity to the telecom companies for their illegal spying. That was his campaign slogans and so forth. So what does he do? He does the exact opposite when he comes in. And what he could easily do is do the exact opposite, do what he claimed was his policy when he was campaigning, which was to do away with things that the Bush administration did, not increase them. I mean, that's not what people voted for. They didn't vote for somebody to increase what Bush was doing. They voted for Obama to decrease what Bush was doing, decrease the surveillance, decrease the breadth of the Patriot Act and the FICE Act and so forth. So that's what he could do now. I mean, if he wanted to be true to his original campaign promises.
And how much leverage would that have? I mean, how much can you put the horses back in the barn?
Well, the president has a lot of power. The president he could use a lot of political power, and if he doesn't succeed, at least he's tried. But I'd like to at least see that. One other point here that really should be made is that I was in London last 10 days or so, and they were having sort of a similar debate before all this came out over here. They were having a debate over this whole issue of what access the government should have to internet communications and so forth. The big difference was, in England, they were talking about having this go through Parliament as a bill, and it was publicly debated. Here, it doesn't go through Congress. It's not debated. It's a creation of a secret order by a government obsessed in secrecy. That's democracy, where you actually debate these things, and if you approve it, you approve it. But you don't do it unilaterally and secretly.
Jack tweets in and says, Mr. Bamford, you assert that data intelligence efforts have caught no terrorists. You say this with what knowledge? How do you know? And we'll tack on to that the House Intel Chairman Mike Rogers says at least one terrorist attack was prevented because of these programs in the last years. What's your response?
Yeah, well, that's what he says. One case in the entire. That's the only thing they could point to is this one case, and that case he was talking about was Najibullah Zazi. And if you read the papers, like I said, I was just in England. That's where it actually originated. That's where the first leaks came from. It didn't come from NSA. It came from Scotland Yard. That's where they came up with the original internet and telephone numbers. It was Scotland Yard that was tracking this, and they passed it on to the U.S. This was not part of this surveillance program. I mean, if you just read there's a number of articles now that explain all this. So, yeah, and if they only had one case in all this time, I mean, that doesn't really seem very cost-effective. Maybe they could put the money into some other resource that would be more useful than